All right, welcome everyone. Good evening. Really good to have all of you on the call tonight. We have another great WCBOO call and another very special guest. I'm excited to introduce Mary Toberman. Okay, so Mary is someone that I met back in 2019 and at the NASO Summit. The same time I met Donnie Epley for the first time, and our paths crossed again in October of the same year at the last live NCAA meeting before the season. So we've stayed in touch, and I introduced myself to her again when WCBOO formed, just to remind her that we're always out there looking to help officials. And so Mary is gracious enough to come and spend some time with us tonight. Tonight was supposed to be the women's Division III national championship game. So I'm just really grateful and thrilled that Mary's able to come here. And I'm so sorry it's under these terms, but at the same time, we really appreciate Mary coming here tonight. She is the Division III NCAA National Coordinator of Women's Basketball Officiating, so all things officiating, and I'm interested in hearing what Mary has to say about, all the people she's been working with this year, especially during the pandemic, and her experience. So welcome, Mary. How are you tonight?
Thank you. I am great tonight. Many of you probably don't know, I'm in the Midwest, kind of Wisconsin technically, but I'm close to Minneapolis. I lived in Minnesota for 20 years, and it was above 50 today. So life's good here.
Nice.
Exactly. I'd rather, like you said, have been in Roanoke, Virginia this weekend, and it's always a hard pill to swallow. But I'm still happy we're connecting like this.
Yeah, and we have a lot of officials that are of different levels, and we are recording this. I've had a lot of people asking me about YouTube TV, so we're starting up the YouTube TV. So this will, exciting, right? This will get out there to everyone, and so we have high school level, we have lower level college, we have some Division I folks, and we're just trying to put the puzzle pieces together across the country in women's basketball officiating and just provide as much education as we can. So the sky's the limit with what you want to share with us tonight, Mary.
Fantastic. I appreciate it. And I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you for having me tonight. And it's funny, you talked about NASO and, us, the last live meeting, and we all know we had virtual meetings this year. And I think some of those positive things are going to continue, which, is going to leave us in a better place. It's not all change is bad, right? So great. I'm going to dive in here. I've got a couple slides prepared for you guys tonight. And to be honest with you, I want to talk about you. That's my topic tonight. So my first thing to say is thank you. Thank you, all of you that have gone on the court today or this year, no matter what level it was, for putting up with the changes and the constant schedule shifts and all of the other testing and all the things you had to do. You guys are truly my heroes, and you've been amazing, right, in this challenging year. So 367 days ago exactly, our season got canceled, and I remember the shock and the disbelief. And as we've come up on this year milestone here, we've seen a lot of news coverage about what it was like a year ago, thinking, oh, we had to shut down and quarantine for 8 weeks. Remember when we thought 8 weeks was a long time? Yeah, who knew it was going to last this long? At that very day, I had an official on an airplane flying to Michigan to work a playoff game at Hope College. And it was our round of 16. And she was willing to fly because her family lived there. That's where she was from, the Michigan area. And she had a 1-year-old baby, and she took her baby with to see grandpa and grandma. And I can tell you how terrified I was that what if she got sick? What if the baby got sick? All that responsibility on my shoulders. And it was really one of the loneliest feelings I've had ever, and especially in this job. So to be here a year later, and all of us are doing okay, right? We miss our season, we miss our friends, we miss our rituals, but we will get back to some kind of normal. And I think it'll feel even richer at that point when that moment happens. A year ago when we ended the season abruptly, in my mind, we had 16 champions. We were down to our round of 16. We at Division III were one of the lucky ones because we at least got to start our playoffs. And the officials that were all slated for, especially the Final Four, we picked those in Division III. We select those officials early. So those of you that don't know, we have different restrictions in Division III than they do in Division II and Division I. And one of our major restrictions is that all officials in the first 4 rounds have to live within 500 miles of a host site. So that doesn't give us the ability to pick officials from all around the country and get them involved in the playoffs. The playoffs, it's very much kind of luck of the draw if you happen to live near one of those schools. And each year, the committees do a good job of trying to make sure that there is some diversity in those, especially those first and second round sites. But it's challenging, and we do see the same teams come up on the top of the list frequently and get to be host sites. And so my goal is always to get as many officials involved as possible. And I will say that, again, a credit to you guys. You are my heroes, especially for what you've done this season. We, all the officials that reached out to me at that point in time felt bad for the student athletes. Nobody thought about themselves. They really felt bad for the teams and the student athletes. And so at that point in time, we took all the final officials that were supposed to be in those last 4 rounds and made a little slide presentation of our 16 champions and took pictures of all 16 teams and sent them personal notes just to express how bad we felt. And I had a coach call me within an hour. I sent it to the 16 coaches, crying. He was in tears. He was so moved by what, you guys as officials did for those teams. So again, just complete credit to you guys. These pictures are all from last season. I wanted to share them with you guys. I had this idea that I was going to make this big collage of them and take them on my road shows and all my, preseason presentation and committee presentations and all that. And I just had so much fun having pictures with every crew that I saw last year. I only missed 1 crew. So you guys you're just getting a sample of some of them, and maybe you'll even see yourself, hopefully. That would be really fun too. One of the things I will admit, I did realize when I was putting this together tonight is that because I took selfies with all the crews, I'm in like every picture. So it kind of looks like a vanity walk, and I apologize for that. That's not it. This is all about you. Okay, so let's talk about some of the game changers this year. We have 60% of our division, less than 60% of our Division III schools are playing games this year. That is why the winter championships were canceled. They had a level, it was 70% of the teams had to be playing in sports, and none of the sports qualified for winter. The NCAA felt as though that was what was required to ensure kind of a justified playoff, if you will. You've got to have the balance of your teams playing in order to have it be that way. So although it was really disappointing and hard to get that news, it was kind of expected, especially from my position. I watched teams just kind of cancel and cancel and cancel and conferences cancel. Our top teams were the first ones to cancel, basically, as well. So we knew that was significant, and those were definitely indicators that the season was in jeopardy. Some of our schools are playing till May and June right now, which is really funny. And I give our assigners a lot of credit. Our coordinators are amazing. They are my next heroes on here, because as many changes as you guys have had in your schedules and teams canceling and all that stuff, they've had it 2,000-fold. And I'm only barely exaggerating. My significant other that I live with is a high school assigner in both Minnesota and Wisconsin, both states. And he has somewhere around 300 officials, 320 officials that he assigns in both states. And to watch all the changes that happened in high school, it was unbelievable. Assigners and coordinators have never worked harder for their money. And I really give them a lot of props. One of our assigners down there, Tony, down from Texas, Tony Stigliano. So great run down there last year. That was one of the really cool things I did 2 years ago, was get to travel the country more and more. My champion coordinator for Division III women's basketball, she was able to get some money in the budget, travel money. People think that I get to fly around and watch games all the time, and that was never part of the budget until 2 years ago. So again, it was a really special thing, and I really look forward to getting back there and seeing you guys work in person. Let me say this. I always, people, when I showed up at a game, people always thought, does that mean I'm going to the playoffs? Unfortunately, it doesn't. There's no particular watch list that I'm targeting, which is also a big difference in Division I, where when you get one of those regional coordinators or Penny Davis, our national coordinator at your game, they're there for a reason and they're watching you. At Division III, yeah, sure, we're watching you, but we're trying to be out and get more coordination. This is a new role, guys. The Division III national coordinator has only been around 4 years, and I am the lucky one to get the job first. And so I'm always excited about that, and I'm always proud about that. I was also lucky that I chose to come off the court in 2017, and 3 months later is when this position was announced. So that made me eligible for it as well. Otherwise, I would have had to make the tough decision about, do I stay officiating or do I take this role? So coordinators, be sure to thank them. And I'm gonna tell a little bit of a negative story, because I want to bring it back into what it takes to be a really good official. I mentioned that my significant other is a coordinator, and he had an official just text him, need to get off my game tonight, with 3 hours notice, got a college game instead. This gentleman was working a Division III men's game, and he replaced him. We are very much in the camp of, we want to support everybody that gets bigger, higher level opportunities all the time. But I think you guys know this, 3 hours notice and to just demand that you're off and not ask is always the wrong way to do things, right? There's a right way to do things in this business, and there's a wrong way to do things in this business. And I'm going to tell you a few stories, and I want you, if you're looking in the mirror and that's you, that might not be a good thing. You might want to consider, how that impacts all of the people in our ecosystem, because it is very, very important. So unfortunately, 1 week later, the same official texted the coordinator and said, how come I don't have any assignments or playoff assignments yet, section finals yet? And when we were talking about this official in this story, and I said, isn't that the same guy that just demanded he gets off a game with 3 hours notice? And I said, I would, we've had kind of a rule, a written or unwritten rule here that, we'll give you a playoff game, but we expect you to keep it unless it's personal circumstances that really do keep you off the game. Nobody likes, especially when you give somebody a playoff, that you trade it up for something else. And again, there's a right way and a wrong way to do these things. It's great to ask. It's great if Violet Palmer comes to you and says, I got a game and you're taking a playoff game from me, you've already got a commitment for a playoff game from me, I'm gonna support you. But I always appreciate you saying, Violet, Mary gave me this playoff game, can I call her first? And you're gonna look a lot better in Violet's eyes too when you say that. She's gonna know that when you respected my assignment, that's gonna mean a lot to both of us. So trust me, it's the right way to do it. And your coordinators deserve your appreciation, all of our appreciation and thanks this year more than any other. So don't feel like you're being the suck up if you send them a note. I know an official who sends his coordinators a handwritten note at the end of every season, and it means so much to those coordinators. They always share it with me. They're excited to tell me about it. And I'm not saying that you all have to do it. I'm just saying, I've been in your shoes, and you always, you feel like, oh, am I sucking up or I'm not sucking up? If it comes from your heart and you really mean it, it's going to come across that way. So don't ever worry about doing those nice things and showing gratitude. It's a good thing. All right, some of the realities. Officials are in jeopardy. I just heard on the news locally. A few nights ago, a youth league hockey official got COVID while officiating youth games, and he passed away last week. And it was the first official I had heard about getting COVID from officiating a game. And we've tried to do this in a safe way. We all want things to open up again. And I think the real heartbreak is that we're so close with this vaccine. We're getting there, and we're all going to get it soon, or at least enough till we get our herd immunity. And to have this happen so close to that light at the end of the tunnel is definitely heartbreaking. We are a family, and it hurts us when something like that happens. We're going to have a lot of our veteran officials that may retire for good. A lot of officials, I think the numbers are 25 to 35% of officials took the year off, worried about their safety or worried about their family members' safety if they were out getting exposed. So those are some of the realities, and we do have a shortage of officials, and it's only going to get worse for a while. So we have to think creatively about how we're going to recruit more officials in and better prepare more officials to be ready for playoff opportunities and advanced opportunities in officiating. And we're going to use our off season to think about some of those things and really work hard at doing this. And I think there's some great proactive things we can do. We certainly need to get our camps back. And I'm not talking about just exposure camps so you can get in conferences. Let's face it, camps is the best way to learn. You get that clinician instruction, that intense feedback. A lot of times newer officials, you're just drinking from a fire hose when you're at camp, and the next year or the year after, it really, that aha moment hits you, and all of a sudden you're executing all those things in a really good way, good habits creeping into your game, and we've got to get our camps back. I got my first text today from one of my coordinators saying, here's my camp dates. Will you come to my camp? And I can't wait. I can't wait to go. It's been too long, that's for sure. But stay tuned for more of that. If you've got good ideas, don't hesitate to reach out. Let Carrie know, let me know, let Penny know. We'll take your feedback. We want to work on this, and we want to make sure that we have a great pool of officials in the future. There's been some good changes. Remember when you used to greet the coaches at 1 minute and 30 seconds left on the clock, and then a coach would inevitably grab you and go, you got to watch, 22, she fouls all the time, or she does this, or and it puts you in that terrible spot. Then you get to the next coach and they're like, what was that coach saying? And then the coaches are fighting, and you're like, I don't want to be in the middle of this, people, Well, we got rid of the coach's handshake this year, and guess what? We are loving it. One of the benefits that Penny Davis brought to her role is she's got me added as a non-voting and adjunct member to the mechanics committee. And I'll tell you what, just to be in those calls and talk with the mechanics committee has been so enlightening for me. I never realized I was really missing out on hearing firsthand how those discussions go and how we decide certain mechanics should be in or out, and the lively debates that we have in that group. It's really cool, and there's some cool things coming. I probably shouldn't let the cat out of the bag, but you're going to get some new uniforms soon, which is kind of exciting news, and they're going to match those jackets. And I'll say this, it's about the coolest uniform I've ever seen, bar none. So really excited about that. And again, that's one of those things that Penny brings to the table. She's brought so much freshness into her role. And I have a lot of respect for her, and I think we're going to see some exciting things. A pretty good story, and probably the reason I got added to the mechanics committee is about a year ago, a little bit more than a year ago, the officials were telling me we've started an ambassadors group. There's one ambassador from every Division III conference, which is 44 of them, that join a call with me once a month. And last year we broke into subcommittees and tried to tackle some of the challenges of officiating. And one of them was sportsmanship. And the group came back with some recommendations. And one of the recommendations was And it came from when I was my trip down to Texas. It turns out that the teams down in Texas go fist pump the officials before every game. And I sat there in shock going, we're not supposed to do that. And the coordinator said, we think it's good sportsmanship and we think it should be back in the mechanics and allowable. And I said, fair enough. So a bunch of officials got together and did when they asked for mechanics changes, they did a little letter writing committee and wrote that mechanics change in. And Penny finally called me and said, the mechanics committee says, call the dogs off. We got the message. We'll consider fist pumping. And then wouldn't you know it, COVID hit and we can't be touching people anyway. So I don't think we'll get that in, you guys. I think that, that'll stay as it is. But, it's just funny how these things evolve. We will see a lot better hygiene in our gyms. I always felt a little grossed out about that anyway. Like, why aren't we wiping balls down? And I never saw anybody clean things. And so I think we'll feel a little better about that. And I think we'll see continued health screening. I think that's just the way of the world. And we're hearing all about these variants now. And it's been a real eye opener for us. And I think that we'll take the positives away and make our game better. And as officials, I think there will be a lot more forgiveness if you need to get off a game for a health. You're not feeling tip top that day. You're a little sick. I think that signers will welcome you not going to a game when you're sick. It used to be a badge of honor. I ref this game and I'm sick. And how many other people did you get sick too? You might be familiar with the health dashboards we put in place this year. There's one for Division I, and then there's a different one for Division II and III. I think those are going to stick around. And it's just a way to kind of self-report. You don't have to talk about why you're sick. You don't have to disclose your personal health information. That's okay. But it gives you a chance to just sort of self-opt out, self-quarantine, things that we never really did before. And I think that that's a good thing. And I think we'll find more flexibilities while doing that. I'm excited about the future. What can I say? I think just right before I came here tonight to talk to you guys about, I don't know, half hour ago, a little bit more than that, was watching the NCAA tournaments and playoffs and the broadcasters and Clark Kellogg, and they were talking about the sacrifices this year. And he goes, and we can't forget the officials. We have to appreciate them. They have been just right on, flexible and willing to go through all these tests and these screenings. And, they put up with just as much as everybody else, and we still don't treat them good on the court. We need to stop doing that. So to hear that, just gets me pumped up, because there is a new appreciation for what you do and for this avocation. And I think we're going to continue to see more and more of that. I hope so. I'm pretty sure we'll never change the coaches. That's just the way it goes. I'm constantly appalled when I watch games at how, the coaches have their masks down and they're screaming and, and just not following the protocols. And to me, it's just so disrespectful. And yet I know coaches don't even know they're doing those things. Those old habits die hard for them. And I have maybe not empathy, but a little understanding for why it is that way. And again, you guys have been so gracious at taking all those hits and, gently reminding them, look, you need to keep your mask on and, all those good things. So thank you for what you're doing. It's really interesting. So Penny Davis got the Division I national coordinator's job 2 seasons ago. She never got her playoffs. She never got to assign one game. At the end of the day, it's kind of interesting. She and I both get 63 games to assign. That's it. And she didn't even get her first go around at it. And at the heart of this job is assigning those 63 games. That's what really, really matters. In addition to Penny being new, and many of you may not know this, but Lynn Andrews was also the new associate director for women's basketball. And so she didn't get her playoffs either. A year ago, I teased both of them. First year in, you guys took the NCAA down. Way to go. But truly, I think about it. I just texted Penny the other day and said, I'm so excited for you, because this is really why we do this job. at the end of the day, this is where the rubber meets the road. This is why we work as hard as we do for you guys, and to give you these opportunities and to put the best officials on the court that we can. And we're going to get to watch that this year. And I know I'm sure you guys have all seen much smaller pool of officials this year. They're all going to stay in like the little bubble in San Antonio and have that thing going on. So there's a lot of officials who are either were on the cusp of getting that opportunity to go, or maybe they were a first year, the year before, and first time selected, and they're sitting out and they had to wait. One of the hardest things about this job, I remember, is if you ended your season with a bad game or something happened, you didn't quite get in the conference you wanted, you have to wait a whole nother year for that to happen. And it's hard to wait. We aren't the most patient society, are we? So I know it's hard, but we are going to get there. And another kind of recent story, one of my daughter's friends from junior high is a Division III hockey player, and she's a fifth-year senior. She's kind of a stud. And her hockey team, Hamlin, went to the championship game back in 2019. And 2018. They lost, but they were in the championship game for Division III. Pretty exciting year for them. They came out this season. They finally started that conference started in mid-January, and the president said no fans. There are no spectators allowed at all. And her co-captain went on this charge to, we are petitioning the conference coordinator, or the commissioner. We want, spectators, and, we'll do the work. If you guys just don't want to do the work, we'll do the work. We'll do the contact tracing and the registration. And, they had a solution for everything. And I really applauded their leadership. But the gentleman that they were calling out, the conference commissioner, is a good friend of mine. And so I called, and she had her online petition, and I called this young lady and I said, Olivia, I can't sign your petition because Dan McCain is a good friend of mine, but I can call him up for you and see if he'll talk to you if you want. She was overwhelmed. So I called Dan. He said, yep, I'll do it. No problem. Her and her co-captain got in a little Zoom meeting with Dan, and I was there to kind of facilitate. And I was a little nervous, like, oh, don't go after him. He's a friend of mine. And they had such a great conversation. And that night they made the evening news, and they were talking about their charter to get fans in the stands. And, but they also talked really positively about Dan McCain. So it felt really good to kind of make that connection and bring that together. And I share that story with you guys because this really is a family business that we're in. And I think now more than ever, we need each other, and it's going to be really fun to get back to sports and spectators in the future. In fact, I said to Dan, I go, a lot of our Division III schools, we struggle to just beg people to come to watch. And now we have to push everybody away and say you can't watch anymore. So I think we'll all welcome that coming back. I also truly believe that we're going to see more interest in younger sports and in youth sports and college sports than the pros. I think people are going to be a little bit more skeptical about going to huge stadiums anymore. I mean, of course they're going to go, right? Of course. But I think you're going to see people liking smaller venues and still enjoying sports that they love in these ways. So I hope that will be one of the good outcomes we see after all of this. So future playoff officials. I shared this picture with you guys because this is what my opening weekend of playoffs looks like. There's 32 games on the first night, and I watched 31 of 32 games last year. And there's frequently 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 games going on at the same time. So I have all my devices stacked up. I've got a piece of paper for every group of officials and that game on that thing. And I sit and I watch. And I'm lucky enough to have evaluators at every single game. That was one of the new things we instituted when I took over this role. In fact, we got that done the very first year. So that was exciting. And they're texting me and they're saying, hey, this person did good. Oh my goodness, we have a situation, and I can flip over that game and I can see what's going on. And, or if I see something, I can say, hey, what's going on with this? Why did I see that? And we are it's super interactive, guys. You couldn't believe it. It's crazy. I definitely probably need a little technology upgrade, and I'm working on that. But it's also one of my funnest nights of the year. And I'm excited because I get to watch all of you, and that makes it wonderful for me. Okay, one of the things that, oops, sorry, got ahead of myself. The most asked question I get is, what are you looking for in a playoff official? And the truth is, I need a lot of diversity. I need all of you. One of the misnomers in previous to having a national coordinator for Division III was the idea of super crews. And if you know how Division III, especially the Final Four works, there's a rotation that 3 different regions send a crew every year. So that takes care of our, 2 semifinal games and our championship game. And if you were in the, the East region, you would work with your East region officials, or Central region. You keep all 3 of those officials together. And the assumption was that, they would be a better crew because they had worked together during the season. Well, that kind of thinking really might hold true a little bit in the East, but it falls apart everywhere else in the country. And if you've ever seen the demographics of how spread out our Division III schools are, there's no way, especially in our West region, you get a California official and a Washington official, and then Minnesota's actually in the West region and a Minnesota official, and they would have no opportunity to work together. So to say that the crew that worked together is better than those 3, I never believed that. And I never believed in the super crew. And that was another change I was able to make, was to break up the super crews now, and to get 1 official from every region going to the Final Four every year for Division III. And that was a very exciting change for me. The committee put a lot of trust in me making that recommendation. And unfortunately, that's last year was the year we were going to implement that change. So that meant no more super crews. I believe that if you study your mechanics book, you follow your mechanics, you know your rules, and then you can work with anybody, right? Our mechanics is our Bible. And a lot of people in officiating say that. That's not just me. If we work our system, you can officiate with anyone. And if you do a great pregame, you'll be fast friends when you hit the court. Doesn't mean it always works perfectly, but you also know you can be working with like closest person that you're very familiar with, and you have an off night too. So to think there's a super crews, I never believed that philosophy. So I didn't get to see that strategy get implemented in reality last year. I obviously didn't get to see it this year, but I'm very excited that we get to do that next year. And get officials from all 8 regions on the court. And then we'll have a few extra people for, obviously we have a 9th spot to fill, and then our 2 alternates. But you're going to see changes. And I think that will really feel like more opportunity for a lot of people, instead of just waiting for your region's rotation to get into the mix. So that's another, I think, a beneficial thing for officials. So getting back to, again, what am I looking for? I'm looking for officials that are good people. And I mean really good people, guys. I'm going back to that official who, turned back his game 3 hours before, and then, had the audacity really to email and say, where's my section finals, my section playoff games? And it's kind of funny because as soon as the assigner said, look, I'm only giving games to people that I know for sure will keep the game and not turn it back. Sadly enough, this official responded with 3 different text messages throughout about a 5-hour period saying, what a horrible assigner you are. You only give games to your friends, yada, yada, yada. And I sat there in somewhat disbelief because I talked to Jim Haney, who's the men's Division III coordinator, all the time. Guys, we all talk, and that's why it's so important to be, do your business right and bring your best self to this job. The job's hard enough without us turning on each other and playing games and thinking we're getting away with stuff. You're not fooling your partners. You're not fooling your assigners if you're that person. And those things do get uncovered, and maybe not in the healthiest way. I heard Sally Bell say a long time ago, and sadly, Sally's, doesn't officiate and is out of assigning anymore. And it's a name that you guys probably maybe don't even know or hear much about, but she, in my opinion, was top notch all the way. One of the best quality people you could ever know and a great official. And she always said, you want to be the gold star on everyone's schedule. You want your partners, when they get their schedule, to be like, yes, I get to work with Carrie. She's the best. I can't wait for that game. And it won't even matter what the game is. You're just so excited to work with that person. Go be that person. Go be that gold star. So when I say I need really, really good people, I need gold stars. And I need you in all shapes, sizes, colors, genders. You can't be what you can't see. And we need to have all of that represented on our court. And those are all important things to me. So I just wanted to bring that to you guys. And then I already jumped ahead and told you, I really miss y'all. Thank you for doing what you do. And I really hope I can get to your gym next year.
Mary, it's interesting that you mentioned Sally Bell and the Gold Star, right? So I worked one game with Sally Bell, and I was so excited to work the one game, right? And of course, that was the year that they first put in, when you made the foul, you went tableside and you should talk to the coach, right? So I called the foul and I turned right around to the coach, which was the wrong thing to do. But Sally had gone Christmas shopping for the game because she was there 3 hours early, and she bought a white turtleneck sweater that was a little too small for someone. And she insisted that I take it home. I'm telling you, you know how many years I had that white turtleneck sweater, Mary.
And you cherish it. No doubt about it. No doubt about it.
It was a great time.
I love that story. And that's who she was. And that is what I can only challenge people to aspire to. And we have Sally Bells around us. Doesn't have to be as famous as Sally. You know those people. Go be those gold star people. Go copy them.
Well, that really gives me a lot of hope, because a lot of people ask me, what should I do this summer? How can I break in? It's a pandemic summer, and I know a lot of, and I know they're out there. We're all out there across the country. A lot of really good people who happen to be officials, and we've had Penny on the show. We've had Debbie on the show, and they're all saying the same things. Be patient, but this is who we're looking for. We're looking for diversity. We're looking for good people. We're looking for those gold stars. And I think telling people to stay with the mechanics manual. I had forgotten you were on that committee, so that's a great thing. If you're working using that manual and working on your mechanics every night, eventually someone will notice. Am I right? That's still the way it goes, right?
Absolutely. There's no doubt about it. More than ever, guys. Yep.
Yeah, and I think that's important. A lot of people have been asking me, what can I do during this pandemic? And that's one of the things that you can do, is take out that book, right? And even, unfortunately, you're watching on TV, but look at the games while they're live.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm going to say this too. I can't wait to watch the women's tournament this year, because I'm going to kind of have a higher standard in my mind for these officials, to be honest with you, right? Especially being in this sort of focused bubble and a smaller pool, and, Penny's first year doing this, and I'm excited for her, and I want them to succeed. I want them to be amazing, and I think we're going to see a really fun playoff this year. So watch the playoffs. And again, like you said, study your book and watch those things. And it's okay to critique, like, hey, how come they didn't do this? And it's okay to ask a question, because there might have been a good reason that they changed it. Penny's a good person of saying, I learned, she talked about standing too close to a play one time and getting caught. And she, puts that clip up, and then she goes, but I learned it's pattern recognition. This job is all about pattern recognition, realizing when something didn't go right, you might have been able to change an angle, even if it wasn't in the mechanics book, right? Sometimes you got to be where you can see. And that's okay too. You just have to know the difference, right? If you're habitually, not where the mechanics book is, that's a problem too. But you're right. That stuff always gets noticed, always.
So I just saw one question come up in the Q&A, and the question is about if you're closed, you have a closed date. Now I know, let's talk a little more coordinators and officials closed, but it happens to be a real busy night, and that official feels some pressure to open up the date, but they have something going on. I mean, what kind of advice would you give that person?
Keep it closed. Keep your personal commitments, guys. We know too many officials who have sacrificed and had family troubles and all kinds of things. People miss a child's birthday. Get on your schedule right away and close those. Don't go, oh shoot, I forgot it was my anniversary. Don't be ditzy like that, but get on and close it, and then keep those commitments to your family, guys. That's part of being a really good person too, right? And I know that assigners, that they get desperate, especially the lower levels. Sorry, all that crap does roll downhill. And like I said, I live with a high school assigner, so I see what he goes through. And I try to be very respectful of that. But I also know that, you making your commitments is significant. And guess what? The games always get filled. Somehow they get filled. Those aren't fun nights, but the work happens. Mm-hmm. So don't take on the world for officiating. Don't think you have all the responsibility in the world to do this job. You need to take care of your mental health too, and your family.
Well, I like the way that you said, it's a people business. It's a family business now. Because back in the day, you really had to take what you were given, and the basketball season could be pretty grueling.
Absolutely. You're right. It really was like that. And I think things have changed. Sure, it's going to be a little stressful from time to time, but it'll be fine. It will work out.
So how do you see the summer camp season? I'm getting a lot of questions about summer camp, because people want to get back to normal, but do you see coordinators working together on camp, or what's the word on the street?
Well, so the Division I coordinators did, what's the word on the street? They did kind of make a commitment or a pact to not have camps, I think, till like June, starting June. They really wanted to sort of put a stake in the ground and say, we don't want to put people at risk. We don't want to make them feel like they have to be here, and in this setting that puts them at risk. And we want time for the vaccine to roll out, thinking of the totality of the situation. Honestly, I think, and I hate to feel this way, but it's, we're hearing about these variants all the time. And I think that a lot of the decisions will be made on those impacts with variants of this virus and everything else. I hope we don't find ourselves in, the same kind of conditions where we're having to constantly adjust. I hope these vaccines will take care of those variants, but I think we're very much in an unknown till we figure out how successful this vaccine is. Clearly, early indicators are things are looking good, right? Things are definitely opening up without hospitalizations and deaths going up. And those are the two important things. But I think that assigners and coordinators are going to be cautious and respectful.
Right. Well, I guess that's the best way to be
in
these times.
Yep, we have to.
So I really just have one more question, just to make sure that you understand. So WCBOO, what happened was, I ran another organization, and same summer I met you, I met Donnie Epley and Felix Adio, and the stars started aligning, and we have very similar missions. And so we formed an IABLE board. That WCBOO is an IABLE board. Okay, so we're a collegiate women's officiating board. We're an education board. So how can I help? How can we all, as we have a team of educators, how can we help with the shortage of officials?
I think we're all going to have a really exciting opportunity in the near future. The NCAA commissioned an outside group. The name is just escaping me right now. I apologize. And it was headed up by several women who, Mary Struckhoff was on that committee. She used to be our national coordinator officials forever ago. And there was a lot of, really talented, especially women in women's athletics, but they focused on 13 sports on the shortage of officials. And they did research for a whole year, and they just came out with their first round of that study. And there's some very practical, tactical things that they're recommending to the NCAA. And I think as soon as the NCAA settles down a little bit, think about it, guys, that they're really, oh, thank you, Picture Group. Donnie, that's it. Thank you. They've got to get their house in order too, right? Financially, the NCAA is kind of in a tough place, which we thought we'd never say those words, right? They need this championship this year. That's the truth. They need football back. And those are just harsh realities of what's going on. However, I think what we'll see is they'll continue with that commitment and continue to invest and budget in that, because they know that people can't play sports without officials. We are an integral part of the game, and we also contribute to the quality of those games, right? So it is worth investing in. And the Picture Group, I think we're going to see them those recommendations start aligning with boards like yours, and we'll come up with real practical ways of having that collaboration happen, which we've never ever seen before. So I think it's the timing's right, and the right people know, and they're committed to this strategic direction.
That sounds great. I'm pretty sure Donnie has been going to a few of those meetings. So I look forward to getting that info. And one more quick question. Is there any further word on the street about when those uniforms are going to be ready for purchase? There's a question out there asking, how can I buy this new shirt?
I'm telling you, it's super cool.
Are you going back to the navy and white? What's going on? The white sneakers?
I'm not going to share any. I probably said more than I should have, but it is honestly one of the sharpest uniforms I've ever seen. And I'll laugh a little bit because there was apparently, I never thought about it, but to change our uniforms is part of the rules. So it has to go through the rules committee, and we have to be in a rule change year. And so there was all this question about that. And I said, hey, wait a minute, we've had other changes before where we said Division II and Division III could wait till, a year. They didn't have to comply. So I think we're coming up on a rule change year, people, and I think we might see a rule change. I'm hopeful.
That's exciting. That's great.
Without the commitment, like I said, of Division II and III, making everyone go buy uniforms. Look, I get it. They're expensive. I'm sorry, I know, but they're really cool. So don't refresh your black and white wardrobe in the off season. Yeah, wait for high school. That's cool.
Right, you just save people some money. Everybody on pause now with your shirt.
Just pause.
Good stuff. I don't see any other questions. Does anyone have any questions out there before we wrap up with Mary? Going once, going twice. Mary, this has been so much fun. I really appreciate your stories were excellent, and they're real. We appreciate your time. We appreciate you just, taking a moment and spending time with us. And I look forward to the next time we see you again. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Yes. Good night, everybody. Ralph will put up the last slide. Thanks a lot, Mary. I appreciate it. And so we're going to be having a virtual camp in, I'm not sure if it's May or June. It's coming. We'll be planning that out there. So I look forward to seeing you. We're going to take at least 2 months off, all right, because we've been working really hard on IABO University. And that's quite a bit of work, believe it or not. I know I've been telling a lot of you it's coming soon, but we still have to put on the finishing touches. And so we're going to start watching the playoffs just like you, all right? I'll see you all next time. Thank you so much and have a great night.